What's up? I'm here with Zach Hubbard. What got you into truth speaking and truth seeking originally?
Sure. So for me, I would say, like a lot of us, the main event was September 11th. I was already on the path, but September 11th it really rubbed me the wrong way. And I found myself really isolated as a human being after September 11th because there wasn't really many people around me, friends, family, peers in school, coworkers that were into questioning 9/11. And I was trying to feel around and see who I could talk to about this subject. And I found that it was pretty much no one outside of my mother. And I ended up doing some research and just trying to figure out what might be going on in the world, because I saw that with regards to September 11th, the ritual had something to do with numbers. So I was saying, really, a national emergency on 911. I mean, this just seems too obvious. And even prior to that, going back, I just used to question everything. My mom says I came out of the womb asking questions. So I was never one to accept an answer, just had to question every last thing that came across my path. And as a young person, I used to question every single day, who was it that contrived this school system that we're all brought up in? I mean, to me, school was really boring from a young age. I just thought it was too easy. It was a waste of my time. I thought I'd be better off just, left to my own devices, enjoying the world, making my own discoveries. I felt that every day my time was being eaten up. And I guess I felt that way all the way through elementary school, middle school, high school. And when September 11th happened in my life, I had just graduated from high school. I was in my second week of university. And the way I woke up that day was my new roommate in my dorm room jumping on top of me in my bed, saying, "You got to get up. There's something going on. My dad just called us. Look at the TV." And I remember looking at the TV and thinking, like, what is that, a rerun of Die Hard? And anyhow, that moment, though, it really made me start to question just how off things were in this society. And even prior to September 11th, the other event that really disturbed me was the election of George W. Bush as president. Because, I mean, if you were paying attention, he was the son of the last Republican president. The election came down to the state where his brother was the governor of Florida. And I just thought, have we been lied to our entire lives about everything? This doesn't look like a democracy, And, the other thing is, not only was it just so painfully obvious that it was a rigged, debacle, but George W. Bush himself, he was just such a smug character and not well-spoken and struggled with the English language. And here we're raised our whole lives to think that the leader of the nation is supposed to be, a good individual, well-spoken, truthful. And it was apparent that he wasn't that. So between that and September 11th, I just started to really wonder what this nation was all about. And finding that I was having trouble talking to anyone, I hit the books and I just started reading and researching. And all along that time, I was asking myself, what is it about, numbers? What is it about numbers? Because it wasn't just September 11th. It was news stories and headlines and the insertion of numbers into stories that seemingly had no place there. And for anyone who actually reads the news, which is few and far between, you'll just see how they interject these news stories. A lot of people right now are fixated on the Epstein thing and the Jeffrey Epstein headline the other week. Everyone was sure to report that he wanted to be on house arrest in his $77 million mansion. I mean, why does it matter that his mansion's $77 million? And who's even pricing that anyway? I mean, real estate prices are always fluctuating. And so anyhow, I realized there was something about numbers that was more than just counting and bank accounts and mathematics and what we learned in school. And along the way, I discovered this word Gematria, which I thought for years was pronounced Gematria because no one's even heard of this word, right?
It's pronounced
So
Gematria.
yeah, it's actually Gematria. For years, I called it Gematria until somebody finally corrected me, but came across this word and I thought it was interesting, the definition, that it was largely a Jewish practice stemming from the Jewish mysticism Kabbalah, and it was about connecting words that have related meaning, but also have matching numerical values. And it was used ritualistically and in tune with dates in the calendar. And as I was reading this definition, I was thinking, sounds kind of like September 11th, a date on the calendar, a number that has this meaning, 911, emergency. And lo and behold, once I found this word, it really started to answer some questions, because along the way, looking at 911, I realized some things. I realized that in 1968, World Trade Center construction began. September 11th was made the National Emergency Dialing Code. Or did I just misspeak? World Trade Center construction began. 911 was made the National Emergency Dialing Code. George W. Bush graduated from Yale and Skull and Bones, like how his father went there. Also some other things like 2001, A Space Odyssey came out. All in 1968, 33 years before 2001. And in this code of Gematria, the word false flag equals 33. And I think everybody knows, well, a lot more people know now than they knew then, that 9/11 was a false flag. And also another thing that happened on September 11th is Flight 77 hit the Pentagon. And not only did Flight 77 hit the Pentagon, but if you look up the history of the Pentagon, construction began September 11th, 1941. And first of all, it's like, what are the odds of that? The construction began on September 11th. It ends up, being attacked on 9/11 some years later. But if you look it up, Flight 77 hit the Pentagon. And if you look up the construction of the Pentagon, it's exactly 77 feet and 3 inches tall. There's 77 feet. It's on the 77th meridian, known as the American meridian. And they say it took off at 8:20 and crashed at 9:37, which is exactly 77 minutes later. And so that's a lot of 77. This is all reported in the 9/11 Commission report. And if you write out the words, September 11th is words, in Gematria, they sum to 77. So does World Trade Center. And other things that sum to 77 include United States, power. I asked Mark Passio, who will be at Anarchadelphia, what the meaning of 77 was, because I understand he has some occult understanding, and he says it's the number of the wizard, it's the number of the spellcaster, which is interesting because the Wizard of Oz equals 77. And just or I guess it was last month already, July 7th, there were headlines about how Bill Gates referred to Steve Jobs as a wizard on that day, as a man who could cast spells. That was a headline from an interview we did on CNN on July 7th. So anyway, 77, very special number, and one that was encoded all over September 11th. And when you learn this code and you just go through the pieces of September 11th, you can see how encoded so many different things are. So
September 11th. Yeah.
That's how I got into this. And I would say honestly, man, I've been awake since I was a little kid, because I saw through a lot of the crap in our world that people still can't see through as adults. I mean, I've known pro sports are a joke since I was a little kid, and just a lot of things. I knew the school system was a joke. I mean, I learned to eat right as a young person, so I knew something was wrong about the food. I knew that, like, for example, I knew McDonald's was toxic as a child. I would not touch that food after about the age of 7,
So you've been through quite a few YouTube channels, right? You've been shut down a lot for trying to spread the message and exposing 9/11 and potentially like the deeper esoteric sort of like construction of these false flags. How many YouTube channels are you on so far?
This is my 18th channel. So, yeah.
And you kind of like recoup your subscriber base pretty quickly, right?
Well, I don't know about pretty quickly. It took a year to get it back to where it was. And, but even though the subscriber base is back up, now that YouTube's just entirely different, you can't even get views anymore. I mean, when my first channel was deleted, my average video got at least 50,000 views. Now, if I get 50,000 views, it feels like a miracle. So,
Yeah, so there's a ton of censorship going on, and we're trying to expose that. So, speaking of censorship and rulers, in a sense, what does anarchy mean to you?
what does anarchy mean to me? Well, I think it means getting free, which is what I've always wanted to do. As a child, I wanted to be free. I realized I wasn't free as a child. I wouldn't do the Pledge of Allegiance, and I just realized we were just lied to from a young age. I mean, if I was free, then why was I mandated to be in the school system, having my time wasted every day? That's how I felt as a young person. I probably had that feeling from second grade on. And I remember I had a good friend back then in second grade. His name was Jesse. And him and I, we'd sit on the edge of the blacktop some days and we just talk about, like, who created this system? Why are we here? Both of us were pretty sharp kids. And we just realized our time was being stolen and wasted. So, you know, and anyway, it's about getting free of this system, because this system essentially is made to waste our time and destroy us as people, take away our creativity, you know, take away our individuality, and make us submit to a system. And almost everyone does do that. And, you know, I really do think it starts all as, I think the entire beast system that I call that we live in is aimed at destroying the child. And it does it by promoting toxic food, by making them go to this school system that promotes, well, what does it promote? I mean, it promotes nonsense. Look at the average high school graduates. What skills do they really have? And most people, by the time they get out of school, they're just burnt out. They just want to escape and never look at a book again. And that's not a good thing. So,
what extent are you willing to go to end federal tyranny?
Yeah, man. Honestly, well, what can I say so far? So for 6 years, I've pretty much given up my life and just pumped out knowledge nonstop so that people can see through the system. But I realize that's not enough. So, I mean, honestly, I'd say I'm willing to do anything, man. I mean, there's that old phrase, what is it? Give me liberty or give me death. And I'd be willing to go there, but I mean, I wouldn't go out on a suicide mission. It's just the way it feels.
Where's the inspiration come from?
Where's the inspiration come from?
Yeah.
Well, I guess it comes from just realizing that, you know, we've been lied to from the beginning, and very few people are willing to stand up to the lies, and even fewer can even see them. So it's like, I feel like since I was given the gift of seeing what's truly going on in the world, and obviously not many people receive this gift, it's just like, it's duty. You gotta play your part. You gotta.
So you see the bullshit through Gematria. So what exactly is Gematria?
Well, I didn't see it through Gematria. I mean, I saw the bullshit because it's bullshit. And I realized that this code of letters and numbers is literally what they use every single day to seemingly script everything that comes through the television and the mainstream media.
I say I'll correct myself and say that you expose it through Gematria.
Right. So what is Gematria? So there's something in the world called Kabbalah. If you've heard that term, the Kabbalah, like the secret political faction, it's derived from Kabbalah.
Of course, I
and
study
Kabbalah
sacred
has
geometry.
a text, the Book of Formation, and the Book of Formation states that God created the world by 3 forms of expression: letters, numbers, and words. And what that's speaking to is Gematria, the practice of coding numbers into words. And lo and behold, it turns out that every single day, this language is used ritualistically to essentially contrive every single thing you see through the headlines. Whether it's sports, whether it's politics, whether it's the latest, contrived propaganda, the distraction story, from the latest shooting. We just got 3 of them in recent days: Walmart, the Gilroy Garlic Festival shooting, and the Brooklyn neighborhood meetup shooting, 3 consecutive days. All of those stories so transparent when you understand this code and the repetitive use of numbers that they use for each ritual. Right now, as we're speaking, the breaking news is that Puerto Rico has a new governor, the 13th governor of the history of Puerto Rico. And if you write out the word 13, if you spell it out, T's the 20th letter, H the 8th letter, I the 9th, R the 18th, so on. If you write out 13, it sums to 99. The man who just became the 13th governor, it's his 99th day of his age, and that's not an accident. These numbers are used again and again ritualistically. Keep in mind, Puerto Rico is a U.S. territory. The United States of America, the nation with 13 colonies that it began with the 13 stripes on the flag, with the 13 years of public school programming. The United States of America was named the United States on September 9th, 9/9. And the United States of America has a Gematria value of 99 as well. And another important meeting of 13 and 99 in history is the establishment of the Bavarian Illuminati, May 1st, 1776. That was a date with 99 numerology, and it was established with 13 families, just before the American Revolution, just before the naming of the country. And all of these things are coordinated together. So you just see how often, when you just pay attention, how often these rituals happen and these same numbers come together, 13 and 99. For anybody who's watched my channel for the last 6 years, I probably talked about 13 and 99 in stories, I don't even know, hundreds of times. Today, right now, is just another shining example. And the last time I talked about a news story bringing 13 and 99 together was probably not even 2 weeks ago. So the patterns are very recurring. And again, when you have this knowledge, you can see through it every single day. And what I realized is, most people don't care about politics. They don't really care about news stories. They care about entertainment, and sports is a big thing. So I realized long ago that they were using this knowledge in sports. And for years, I've been able to call, championships and outcomes of sports seasons before they even begin. And what I've shown people over the years is, from the preseason games to the Super Bowl or whatever sports championship, they do the same thing in all the games. They literally rig and script them all. Like, you'd think in the preseason it's guys competing for the team, but it's not. Last night, for example, I have people who follow me because they just want sports picks every single day. They wanted to know who's going to win the preseason game. So I said, well, look, your opening preseason game for the 100th NFL season, the Hall of Fame game as they call it, it's the Broncos and the Falcons. And I said, if you know football, that was Super Bowl 33. And the Broncos won that game 34-19. John Elway was the MVP. And I said, it's not an accident that the Broncos won that game with 34 points. Just like when the Patriots just beat the Falcons in the Super Bowl, they beat them with 34 points as well. With this knowledge, you can go through every Super Bowl score and see why the score was what it was. In Gematria, Falcons equals 34, and Atlanta Falcons equals 139, which is the 34th prime number. So the team has 2 connections to the number 34. And what I showed last night is, prior to the game, as I said, look, from John Elway's birthday to this game is 34 days later. That's not an accident. That's part of the reason they're having this game be the opener. If you write out the word 100, because this is the 100th NFL season, it sums to 34. So you have this 34 ritual game as the first game of the 100th NFL season. And the winning score last night was caught by a man named Juwan Winfrey. It was 34 days from Juwan Winfrey's upcoming birthday. He's going to turn 23 years old 34 days after the game. The name Juwan.
Who is they? Who is they?
So who is they? Yeah, who's they? If you write out they, it sums to 58, like secret society, like Rosicrucian, like Freemasonry. So many things relating to Freemasonry, and understand it's not all Freemasons. I mean, you and I could go join a Freemason lodge if we wanted to. We wouldn't be part of they. But at the very top of the Masonic structure like in the highest ranks of the Scottish Rite, for example, which has its headquarters in DC, which, you know, the nation's capital, Washington, D.C., is named after the 33rd degree Scottish Rite Freemason George Washington. But this is who they are. Masonry, the Jesuits. The Jesuits also have a lot of influence in Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. used to be the Catholic colony, and that's why it's located between Virginia and Maryland.
So what do you think the root is of studying or worshiping these numbers?
Kabbalah.
But what, does it give you the ability to control the world?
Well,
Sheep, to herd the sheep? Is that what it is? When you understand the knowledge of the numbers and their association with the framework of existence in some sort, is that, what are they worshiping? What is it? Well, how do they have this power? How did this group of people get this power? And why are they repressing this study from us? And how can we get it back? You know, the power back, essentially.
Sure. So seemingly it does have a magical component to it. Before I understood any of this, what I used to always say to the people who are willing to listen is, I said, it seems like there's a magical spell over the land, like we live in a Disney movie almost, and people can't see the obvious. And that's how 9/11 was to me, because I thought, how can everybody be deceived by this? I mean, it couldn't be any more obvious that it's a lie. 2 buildings perfectly demolished, you know, blamed on a man in a cave halfway across the world. How's any of this possible? Who's falling for this? I mean, a president who's the son of the last, you know, Republican president who got elected because there was a recount, or came down to the state where his brother was, where they overturned the original decision. I mean, but so anyway, think about the word spell. The word spell has to do with, you know, casting magic, and it also has to do with contriving words. And as silly as it might seem, and I can't explain the how, I don't understand the how component, but all I can do is just see that something like this is taking place. There's obviously a reason they encode the words as they do and use them ritualistically as they do, as repetitively as they do. You know, one of the most interesting things is to understand this code and watch sports, because some of the things you witness are really hard to explain how it's even pulled off. Like, for example, I told people on February 8th that either Virginia or Duke would win the college basketball championship. And by the time the tournament was about to start, I said it'll probably be Virginia, because they were at the right amount of losses for the season. I didn't think they would lose anymore, and they didn't. But anyway, if you watched the college basketball tournament, there was a game where Virginia should have lost. I mean, it was like a miracle that they won the game. If you understand basketball, the ball was knocked into the backcourt. There was almost no time left. Point guard had to run and chase the ball down, catch it, almost throw it back down the court like a football pass. And in midair, their player grabbed it and kind of tipped it through the air and made it go through the basket. And I was like, okay, how do you script and rehearse a play like that?
Things
but
would just
this kind of stuff goes on in the world of sports again and again, and it's like, okay, how are they making this happen? And just to go back, the reason I knew it would be Virginia or Duke to win the college basketball championship is because of the story that was in the mainstream February 8th. For years, I've shown how news stories are contrived propaganda that are really ritual synced up with the world of sports. On February 8th, there was a story about the lieutenant governor in Virginia raping a woman while at Duke. And that news story came the day before Virginia and Duke were going to play their big college basketball game. And I showed how the name of the lieutenant governor, Justin Fairfax is his name, how his name sums to 59 and 85. There's multiple ciphers in Gematria. I primarily teach 4. There's 4 ciphers you really want to know. But I showed how his name summed to 59 and 85. And with regards to 59, the college basketball championship was scheduled 59 days later. And it's a special number. It's a number coded all over Black history. It's not an accident that Black History Month ends in February, which ends on the 59th day of the year. It's not an accident that Motown Records was established in 59. In Gematria, Negro, Slave, Blues, Rasta, and more, they all sum to 59. It's this number that's used again and again in relation to Black history. With regards to his name summing to 85, basketball equals 85. It's why the first March Madness tournament was in 1985. But so anyway, from the day that the story broke to the championship was 59 days later. And if you go and look at the box score for Virginia when they did win the championship, they scored 85 points and they took exactly 59 shots in the game. And this isn't some accident or random occurrence. This is what goes on every single year. And to, you know, witness, so it boggles my mind, even though we continue to predict things correctly, but just how it's all executed so perfectly, game after game, season after season, especially plays like that, it just makes you scratch your head a little bit.
So do you think you've discovered the framework of how things have been pre-written in a sense, and maybe those who understand it kind of like use it to their advantage? Because I know that 8/11 is a very speculative date for a lot of people that study Gematria and kind of what's going on with that. But Anarchadelphia happens to be 33 days after 8/11, and it's also 888,888 days after the creation of the Illuminati, says Flowey. And I trust him because, I mean, he vanished for months and studied this stuff, you know, and it just seems like maybe when certain numbers are in association with each other, they create these portals of some sense, and they allow they allow certain things to happen, whether you want them to be. I think that they're like neutral. And I know this might sound esoteric, but you can use them to your advantage and create harm or, you know, better the situation in a sense.
Sure, there's definitely an organic side to this, and it does seem somewhat like that. Like the cabal understands this and they use it to their advantage with maybe some slight manipulations in the matrix. But it's obvious that they're also manipulating, because to put out this headline. So first of all, if you paid attention during Black History Month, it was nonstop racially divisive stories. It was everything. It was Jussie Smollett. It was R. Kelly. It was the Virginia governor in blackface. It was the Virginia attorney general in blackface. It was the black lieutenant governor raping a white woman.
Do you study the headlines on a daily basis? And
right.
Yeah, I don't do that at all. I stopped watching like all my YouTube subscribers and stuff. I'm trying to detach from all that stuff. So
sure. Well, I did
you from doing that, giving yourself to that cluster.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And that's what I did after 9/11 too, is I just stopped watching television, everything. I cut out everything: news, media, sports, movies. And I did that for probably about a decade. And what got me back into even paying attention was this research, because I just wanted to wake people up. I just got tired of just people falling for all the crap in the headlines. Like, for example, something that irritated me when I wasn't paying attention, the way I found out that Osama bin Laden had reportedly died was through Facebook, because everyone was posting like, "We killed Osama," with like caps and all these exclamation points. It's like, seriously, all the people I know are excited that Osama bin Laden's dead. And I left a comment that day like, you know, you guys got to wake up. I mean, Osama bin Laden's a puppet. And I said, and somebody had the image post. I said, look, they give you a picture of a man in the water with his back showing to you, and you guys think that's something? I said, Osama bin Laden had nothing to do with it. And then, so I got attacked from, you know, all the brain dead masses, as I would call them. But, you know, again, just things like, so anyway, this type of stuff, just seeing that people aren't waking up, I was just like, okay, I need to go back and like figure out a way to help these sleeping masses wake up, because it's so obvious they're being lied and deceived, but they can't see it. So again, like with regards to Osama bin Laden, this is why this knowledge is so beautiful. He was reported dead May 2nd, 2011. And when this happened at the time, I didn't know Gematria yet. I didn't discover Gematria until 2013. But May 2nd, 2011 was exactly a span of 119 weeks from Obama taking office. 119, just like how September 11th in the majority of the world's written 11/9, like 119. If you look up the history of Osama bin Laden, his father supposedly died in a plane crash on September 3rd, the day leaving 119 days left in the year, right? 119. And with regards to September 3rd, think about the 93 World Trade Center bombing. Think about Flight 93, which supposedly crashed in Pennsylvania. The new building that's there, One World Trade Center, sums to 93. That's a number that represents Saturn, very important to the occult. Saturn has to do with time and judgment. Anyhow.
So I think
109.
it's important to address how you calculate these ciphers. There's in like how the number value is associated to what the letters in specific ciphers. Like A is 1, B is 2 in certain ciphers, correct? And
Absolutely.
then
So that's
back and
called simple
forth and
English gematria, just using the alphabetic order. A's 1, B's 2, C's 3, D's 4, up to Z is 26. And if you write out simple, if you write out English, if you write out gematria and you just use the alphabetic order, they all sum to 74. Just like the word occult sums to 74, Masonic 74, Jewish is 74. When you use this knowledge, you can see how the agenda is working against us every single day. The majority of the truth community, they have opinions and speculation, but they don't have any evidence to back up anything that they actually believe in. And I'd say that for even the most well-known names in the truth community. Like Mark Passio, for example. I like Mark Passio, but when he talked about the election, he's like, well, I think they got rid of Hillary because she had some health problems, and maybe that's why they let Trump slide in there. No. Donald Trump was foreshadowed for decades to be the winner of that election. And when you understand this knowledge, you can see through that.
Flowey introduced us. That was primarily the focus of his study, was potentially the aspect of time travel and Trump and like the planning of this sort of moving into the third temple and what's going on in the world politically and astrologically. It's just so bizarre, man. It's so crazy.
Right. So I've never come across any kind of knowledge that allows you to win money on sports games, allow you to see through the lies every single day in the headlines and prove it, show you how the election's rigged, et cetera, et cetera. And in the years I've been doing this, that's my greatest frustration, is that other people in the community haven't been sharing this knowledge, because I've done some really important things, and people really should have backed me up when my first channel got deleted, because part of the reason my channel was deleted June 28, 2017. That's the real special day in Rosemary's Baby, movie all about the occult. It's also Elon Musk's birthday. But the reason that my channel was deleted then is because there was so much evidence exposing what had already happened, because I had so many correct predictions. But all that year I had been telling people to circle Yom Kippur and the days after it, because I said, just watch, we're going to see the biggest false flag in this country since 9/11, just watch. And sure enough, it came. It was the Sin City Harvest Festival concert shooting. And, the countless videos that were there exposing why that was going to happen that weekend at that period of time, and the ritual that was about to come, it was all taken down even before the event. So, and I continued to warn about it. By the time October 1st rolled around and that shooting happened, I was probably already on my 7th or 8th channel. So, and it's just like, again and again, I tell people to circle dates, because these people are so repetitive by the code they work by. Like March 15th, 2019, I said, just watch what they'll do on the Ides of March this year. Sure enough.
When you were saying, listen, this was back in November, and you were like, George Bush Sr. is going to die on 11/30.
I didn't say he was going to die November 30th. I should have done some more research on that. I said he
would. Yeah, the numbers was 11/3 and all that. And he would die before the 30th or something like that.
I said he wouldn't make it past November. I said George Herbert Walker Bush will die before the end of November 2018. I said, and of course he ended up dying on the day that Paul Walker died. And the reason that matters is because Paul Walker, one of his first movies was The Skulls, about Skull and Bones. And the reason George Herbert Walker Bush died on November 30th is if you add 11 plus 30, it's 41. He was the 41st president. And when you write out Skull and Bones, it sums to 41.
And it's also my mother's birthday, so fuck that motherfucker.
Yeah.
So what do you do to balance your time? Because you must be consumed with this stuff. So who is Zach Hubbard on the outside?
It all right now, man. I couldn't lie and say, how do I balance my time? I spend way too much time on this because I've just seen that the time is now, man. I knew that the censorship would be as bad as it is now. I said back in 2013, I said I don't even know if we have 5 years left to speak out before they just shut all this stuff off. And
yeah.
It's been a little bit more than 5 years, but It's just obvious. I mean, people got to do something now. People
That's
got to
right.
do something right now. I mean, so I
Have
put a
you
lot of energy and time into it.
have you run the numbers for Anarchadelphia by any chance on this Gematria calculator?
I, I actually haven't. No,
I
haven't
gotta
done
do
that.
that. Oh, well.
What, you want me to do it in real time? You want me to see what stands out?
Yeah, sure. Throw up a screen share and send me the video.
Hold on. I don't
Or
know. I don't
or
know
I
how to
guess
use
I could do
real
it afterwards.
time
I'll
to do
do
it.
that afterwards because the numbers will be the same.
Sure, I can just tell you real quick.
All right,
Oh,
cool.
you know what's cool about Anarchadelphia?
What?
Well,
So
just using
many
the
things,
wow,
man.
that's crazy. Just using the alphabetic order. Is
Oh shit.
26. Anarchadelphia sums to 101, just like Philadelphia. And using the alphabetic order and the rules of numerology, those are the two ciphers I've always talked about. Manly P. Hall shared about them in his book, The Secret Teachings of All Ages. But using the alphabetic order and the rules of numerology, Anarchadelphia is 65, just like Philadelphia. And Philadelphia was established on the day leaving 65 days left in the year. Always a real big number with that city, especially in sports. And, you know, the year the Eagles won the Super Bowl, which couldn't have been any more rigged, they began that season 10-1. And I told people after week 3, I said, just watch. I said, watch the Eagles start the season 10-1 this year. Just to give you something Philadelphia specific, the year that the Eagles beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl, that year Donald Trump began tweeting against the NFL and the people participating in the protests on September 23rd, 23/9, like 239. The flag was sewn in Philadelphia at 239 Arch Street. And 239 is the 52nd prime number. Those are the numbers that are only divisible by one in themselves. 239, the 52nd prime. That was the year of Super Bowl 52. And of course, they ended up playing the Patriots, who had the flag on the side of their helmet. And when they won the Super Bowl, Zachary scored the winning touchdown. And I got to be honest, I called the right teams in the Super Bowl. I knew the Patriots would be in it before the season began because of another riddle. So I was looking for the NFC team. After Trump did that with the protest, the flag thing, I said, okay, they're doing the Eagles, of course, the home of the flag. But what I thought was that the Patriots would beat the Eagles. Some people who followed me thought the Eagles were going to win. I said, well, you could be right. There's a chance because they are the home of the flag. I said, if the Eagles win, just watch. Zach Ertz will score the winning touchdown. He's the tight end for that team, and he did. He ended up scoring the winning touchdown. He wore the number 86. The Super Bowl was 86 days after his birthday, and the national anthem was adopted 86 years before that season. And that's what the whole season was about, the conflict with the flag protests and the national anthem. So that's how they do it. And year after year, they sync up sports and news, and they perform the rituals perfectly on the field. By the way, I just told you Philadelphia equals 65 like Anarchadelphia. Tom Brady picked up his 65th career loss, losing in that Super Bowl to Philadelphia. So
65 reduces to 11. So we got Philly and we got Anarchadelphia. We got an 11-11. Things are going to be great. You're also going to be doing a workshop on Friday, which is has a minimal fee, about $50, 2 hours. So if anybody can't make it down for the full ticket, which you can also save 5% on if you use the promo code Zachary K. Hubbard at checkout at thestateofanarchy.com or anarchadelphia.com. You can get your tickets there. But if you can't make the full event, you'll be doing a 2-hour workshop and sort of getting more into depth about Gematria and how to potentially make a couple bucks on sports or just learn about this stuff, you know?
absolutely. And yeah, it'll be nice to do it in person because any questions people have, I can answer them in real time. But the study is really simple to learn and it's really simple to apply, and it pays dividends right away because every single day you can use it in numerous ways. Pretty much every headline contrived is by this code. Literally every sport game that you can bet on in Vegas is rigged by this code. So it is knowledge to know.
Yeah, I mean, I like your practical approach to it by studying the headlines, studying sports, and associating this crazy, crazy riddle with it. I'm more interested in for like this spiritual, esoteric manifestation power. But we're so stoked to have you, and we can't wait to see you in September.
Very cool. Yeah, and we can absolutely talk about that side of it too, because it really is the more mind blowing side. We didn't touch on that at all, but it's there. And just real quick, when I first got into this study, I looked at the organic side of it because I heard that it existed. And what I read was that what's considered the most pure cipher is the alphabetic order with the rules of numerology. So you just make each letter a single digit number. So A still 1, B still 2, C still 3. When you get to J, the 10th letter, instead of J being 10, you take the numerology of 10. 1 plus 0 is 1. Up to Z, the 26th letter, instead of Z being 26, is 2 plus 6 is 8. You're just making each letter a single digit number. That's considered the most pure cipher. Manly P. Hall expresses that. Other authors like Faith Giovanni do. Anyhow, what I read is the people in our lives, a lot of us, if you decode yourself, your full name, the people in your lives, you'll see that there's recurring patterns in the numbers. And I thought, well, if there's any two people I should definitely be connected to, it should be my mom and my dad, I suppose. So I took the time to decode all three of our full names, first, middle, last. And I saw that my father's name and mine were the exact same. They both summed to 89. My mother's name summed to 62, which isn't 89, but the numerology still breaks down to 8. 6 plus 2 is 8. 89 is 8 plus 9 is 17. 1 plus 7 is 8. So we're all 8s. But then the kicker is my mom's birthday is September 8th. So it's 8-9. So I was like, wow, that's pretty wild. So all of us are connected through this number 89. And I remembered that my dad, he kept this scrap of paper that he always thought was so cool. The day I was born on was the day with the official coldest recorded temperature. And now we're in the age of the internet, so anyone can type this in. Just do a web search. What's the coldest day ever recorded? It'll show you it was July 21st, 1983. It's happened to be the day I was born. And the record temperature was negative 89 Celsius, right?
Oh,
and what's a trip is 89 is a Fibonacci number. It's the 11th Fibonacci number. And the Fibonacci that comes after that is 144. From my dad's birthday to my mom's birthday is 144 days later. So I was like, look at that. They say the Fibonacci numbers are the numbers of God. So
it's interesting that you say at J, the fractal starts and it turns into 11 again. I see that as like a second dimensional tier in this system. You should check out an animation that I created called Luciferium that sort of breaks down the three-phase structure of a tier and how it's related to Fibonacci and essentially the word God. And it's got a lot to do with associating the structure of words with numbers and consciousness, essentially. And the 0 point.
Is that on this channel?
It's on the State of Anarchy. It's on Binary Drool. It's on Illucifer. Just YouTube Illuciferium. ILLUCIFERIUM.
Okay, I will do that.
Yeah, I put a lot of time into it. I think you'll like it.
Absolutely, yeah. I'll definitely check it out.
Cool. Well, I can't wait to see you in September, man.
All right, appreciate it, man.
All right.
Have a good one.
Anarchadelphia is a conference dedicated to the principles of liberty, individual sovereignty, and freedom from coercion, located in Philadelphia, the cradle of liberty. Anarchadelphia seeks to shed light on issues such as geopolitics, blockchain economics, spiritual health and wellness, as well as exposing the Earth's sacred hidden knowledge, featuring Mark Passio, Max Egan, Derek Brose, Jeff Berwick, and many more this September 13th through 15th. For info and tickets, visit anarchadelphia.com.